Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In podcast. With you as always, Preston and Tyler. Man, UFC 252, not the best night for us pick-wise, but super good pay-per-view all around. And this Saturday, hopefully 4 times the charm, man. Frankie Edgar making the 135-pound debut versus Pedro Munhoz. Been rebooked quite a few times, but looks like it's finally going to happen here on Saturday night. Really excited about that one. Pedro's kind of at the top of the division. If Frankie goes down there and wins, he inserts himself in the top, 8 of that division or so, in my opinion.
Yeah, he could definitely make an immediate impact at bantamweight. Like you said, 252, it was a good card. I don't really know anybody who did well on their picks. It was a tough one to call. So I don't feel bad about getting our picks wrong, but it was different.
Yeah, just to recap it real fast, the first fight of the night was one that got added super late. It was the Kai Kamaka versus Tony Kelly, but a super close fight back and forth. Ended up taking home 50 G's for fight of the night. I saw a video of Tony Kelly's manager actually FaceTiming him to tell him, and it's super cool to see their reaction when they get 50 G's. It's life-changing,
Yeah, it's takes him from being a part-time fighter to a full-time fighter, and it's definitely exciting to see him get that first leap in the UFC. Something to note about that fight is I was really impressed with his fight IQ towards the end of his rounds. I'd shoot in for those takedowns just to kind of solidify the win, and I was really happy with his performance.
And then we were talking about the footwork of Chris Dawkins, and it was evident from the very beginning. Did take one and a really good leg kick, which I did mention to you about Parker Porter. I know I'd said he had good leg kicks, but man, Dawkins was just so much lighter on the feet, much faster hands and stuff, and got him a first-round finish there in his UFC debut.
Yeah, I was impressed with it. I wouldn't mind seeing him get into a little bit better shape and possibly look at moving to 205. He moves really light on his feet like a heavyweight, like you said, but his body fat just doesn't seem like that's going to carry him any further, being 230 pounds in the heavyweight division already.
Yeah, next fight, man, I did cash a play on the night, but I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little worried when it was going to the scorecards. Livia Souza did take it, decision win over Ashley Yoder. I heard the 30-27 scorecards, and I did not know who was about to win that fight, man. I cashed it, but probably looking to not play her again, man. She made that fight a lot closer than I thought she should have.
I wouldn't touch a Souza fight anymore. She looked extremely sloppy out there. That being said, Ashley did a really good job of fighting long and utilizing that boxing range, or that long range with her physique. It was exactly what she needed to do to kind of stop that attack from Souza. So I was happy with her performance. Although she couldn't get it done, she was kind of outmatched.
Right. And then I did have a play on TJ Brown fall through there. Danny Chavez looked good. It went to the scorecards as well. It was a close fight, man, but Chavez did a good job of staying on his feet, and we did touch on him, and he tore up the leg with the calf kicks and stuff.
The calf kick was definitely the biggest strike that he'd landed all fight, and then just kept going back to it and making TJ Brown pay for it. Seems like TJ Brown definitely didn't have a plan to switch stances. He constantly went back to his stance, and I think that's just from not practicing southpaw.
Man, Jane DeRoba got it done almost as soon as it hit the mat, a sub in 1 minute and 44 seconds there. I know we were super worried about Felice coming back, but I'll be the first to say I didn't think it would be that quick. But I know you cashed on the under 2.5 at plus money there. I didn't tell you, but man, I was so tempted to, because in my opinion, it was such a mismatch.
It was a little bit sad. I was hoping Felice could have given her a little something more. I think right now she should probably look at hanging it all up and just retiring. 35 and coming off that ACL tear with a loss like this, I can't see her making another push for the title or anything. So she should look at hanging it up, even though she's still jacked for her age.
Condition, man. She looked great in the weigh-in and stuff. It actually had me a little nervous to see how good she was in. But, man, completely mismatched. And we said if it hit the mat, it was all over, and it was over quick.
Yeah.
Prelim co-main event. Man, I was so close to calling that Jim Miller first-round sub. He took his back multiple times, man. He really threatened it. Don't know. I know we've heard Jim Miller talk about the Lyme disease and stuff and how that's taken a toll on his body as he's getting older. And as he's recovered for it, he's, was on a 4-fight win streak or something like that, finishing all his opponents. But in my opinion, you can still kind of see it. Maybe it's the age, maybe it's, just used to being a one-round fighter for the last year, but the cardio wasn't really there. And once the cardio kind of went down, Vince took over with the strength and stuff. Man, Vince looked good to be, a layoff at 37. He looked good on the scales.
Yeah, whenever I saw him weigh in, I actually placed a bet on Pichel. I was a little bit worried about that fight. Wasn't really sure who was going to get the edge in that. But after seeing him weigh in, I thought Jim looked a little sloppy around the midsection, where Pichel, I mean, you could have told me he was 25 years old body-wise, and I would have believed you. Like you said, Jim Miller's sub-attempts off his back, they were really, really good. And he had Pichel in some tough positions throughout the fight. That being said, it's just as impressive Pichel's ability to not get subbed in those situations. He was in some tight positions and just used his strength and composure to stay on top and dominate that fight for the most part.
Yeah. Then to kick off the pay-per-view, man, we had John Dodson versus Merab. And, I mean, I get the Merab decision. I did not mind our play on Dodson, but I know when we were watching the fights together, man, you made a really, really good point to me at when you defend, 20 takedowns, you can say he landed a couple, but he didn't hold John Dodson down for more than a second or two before he's back on his feet. At what point does that give you points for, defending the takedown? That's Merab's game plan, and you're taking it away from him, So at what point does it give you an advantage that round as well? You just defended like 25 takedowns over 15 minutes.
100%. And I think I would be more, I'd be more willing to argue for Dodson if he just had a little bit more volume in his punches. It seemed like he was still timid to throw any shots. I guess just, in the back of his mind, knowing that he's about to shoot at any time. But like you said, I mean, they gave it 2 for 20 on takedowns. I actually think he shot a little bit more than that. And those 2 takedowns that they're counting, like you said, he wasn't on the ground for more than 2 seconds. And Merab didn't land any shots in those 2 takedowns. So, I guess something to note is that Merab's gas tank, even at the end of the 3rd round, he wasn't tired at all.
Not whatsoever.
And it was kind of scary, he was super intense in there, and I'm sure that's right. Yeah, the yelling at the start of the 3rd round and everything. I'm sure that takes a toll mentally on Dodson as a fighter, knowing that this guy's been pressuring him the entire fight, and there's no indication that he's slowing down in this next round. And
then, I lost quite a bit on the next one. I'm not going to lie. I bet Herbert Burns pretty heavy. I got him at the opening line of -260, so I was really enjoying the odds that I got him at, because it only crept up from there. But man, Daniel Pineda just went out there and absolutely destroyed him. I don't know if it was the weight cut. I really don't know. Once it hit the mat, Herbert had a couple of, I guess, a few opportunities, but outside of that, man, Pineda got him on the ground and pounded him into the canvas. The crucifix was dirty, and I know you got a little prediction about USADA maybe knocking on his door or something. Man, Pineda looked impressive. He definitely took advantage of his second UFC debut there.
I definitely expected him to come out with a little bit more flab around the waist, considering he took it on short notice. But like I said, he's been out of that. He's not been in the USADA testing pool, and he's been suspended for less than a year coming off of 2 fights where he tested positive for high testosterone. I'd really be suspect about that fight, and if it gets overturned in the future.
Be knocking down the bookie's door from a money back if it does.
Right, right.
The next fight, man, we had some big boys, Junior Dos Santos versus Jair Rozenstruik. I mean, Junior, the much more technical boxer of the two, in my opinion, and until the knockout had landed the cleaner punches. But I was not – I didn't have a problem with our bet, man, because up until, that point, Junior was winning the fight and was showing some a good fight IQ. But it just took that one punch. And I saw something that Junior had put on, like, his Instagram or Twitter, and he's not in a good place right now. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and he was just talking about how good a shape he was in before that last fight right there, and talking about how much work he's put into it and the time he's put into it, and he's just not getting the results that he thinks he should be getting right now. And, you're fighting Francis and Curtis Blades and, Rozenstruik, who's a lifelong striker too. So I just hope it doesn't get in his head too much, because I really do think it's, it's just the damage that he's taken over the years, man. The big boys are going to put you out after your chin's been tested so much.
So realistically, with him saying that on Instagram, the heavyweight division has been the division of dinosaurs for the last 10 years. And I think finally the age is starting to take a toll on all of those guys who have been, holding on to their elite status in heavyweight and just haven't faced the competition that's been rising up until that point. So JDS, yes, he looked like the more technical striker and he was playing it safe. But it was like the third strike that Biggie Boy landed, and that knocked him out. So, we saw JDS being more technical, but having so much respect for Rosenstruik's power that it made him timid to throw, and he wasn't engaging very much. So even though, he was winning, Rosenstruik, even if he didn't knock him out right there, it's back to an even round because that was really the only damage that was done.
And I know I'd made a point, man, to tell you that, when JDS puts his back on the fence, he gets knocked out. And, the knockout was right up against the fence, where he had nowhere to go, nowhere to use that footwork and stuff.
Right.
I know Rosenstruik probably going to get himself a good fight here next. Looks like Derek Lewis has got Curtis Blade, so I don't really know. Rosenstruik's already beat Alistair Overeem. Maybe he fights Augusto Sakai if Sakai wins, but do you run the Overeem fight back after Overeem beat him for almost 25 minutes and then he landed the one punch? I don't know.
If I was Overeem, I'd definitely voice that because that'd be something that I'd be interested in. I think he's a far more technical striker. It's the same concept as this JDS fight. He just has to avoid Rosenstruik's power for 5 rounds. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if he could get it in a co-main event spot where it was only 3 rounds, I'd take Overeem in that fight.
I know you had called me the other day talking about the purses and stuff after they came out, and after looking at how much Junior Dos Santos is making just to step in the octagon, it is hard to walk away,
Yeah, he's making championship money just being there. I would fight anybody for that type of money, so I don't blame him.
Then the co-main event, I know we cashed pretty big on it, being under 2.5. We knew for a fact that I wasn't going to see the judges, but didn't go the way we expected or we were hoping for, man. Props to Vera. I mean, after watching the fight back, one of Vera's leg kicks definitely caused the injury. That being said, that leg kick is thrown so many times in a fight and it doesn't shut off the nerve. So he did cause it, but that was a freak incident in my opinion. But that being said, man, that's the second leg injury we've seen O'Malley with.
It comes into question now, is he injury prone? Is his body just not made for MMA? And those are a lot of questions that come up whenever I think about the future of Sugar Sean. Like you said, Marlon Vera placed that perfectly, so props to him. But it wasn't like he went out there and dominated him before that or had landed multiple leg kicks before that or even had it been a head kick knockout or something that was, you can't argue it, so be it. But like you said, it was a leg kick that gets thrown pretty regularly. It just so happened to shut off his foot.
And, maybe it has to do with just the age, man, and stuff on him. But I don't want to say he was quick to quit. But, we've seen Michael Chandler's get shut off and, him straight up be trying to walk on it, and still fight and still throw it. And, I don't want to say Sugar Sean quit by no means, but he kind of was looking for a way out. You could tell it was really, really bothering him. You got Henry Cejudo, who wore the damn ankle wraps to cover up what he did to his ankle before the Marlon Moraes fight and stuff, and massive sprain, and then took all those leg kicks to come back and, to make a game plan change in order to finish the fight so he could get out of there. It's almost like a championship mindset, that I just don't know if Sugar Sean has. But at the same time, dude, you can't really expect that of a 25, 26-year-old kid,
Well, right. And even that being said, I feel like as far as his mindset going into the fight, he couldn't be more confident than any fighter on the card. So maybe it is just whenever he sees a chink in his armor, he starts panicking and would rather, give up that than fight through it. So I definitely hear what you're saying. And
go ahead.
Man, I hope he can come back from this.
Yeah, that's what I'm at. I was mentioning to you that he has a kick-heavy game, and he has skinny little legs, man, so it's as you start getting up to these, professional level guys where Sean should be fighting, they're much better athletes. They're built stronger, more powerful, man. And it's, might do some damage to the little legs and stuff. Just I see Sugar Sean bouncing back from this, though. I really do. I don't think Marlon Vera was a step up in competition too early or anything. I really do think he landed the perfectly placed shot that so happened to just shut the nerve off.
So, I mean, when Sean comes back, do you give him a step up in competition like we think he probably deserved, a little bit, higher than Marlon Vera? Do you run that fight back, or do you give him another tomato can so that he can pad his record a little bit more and get back on the –
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, I think somewhere around the same level of Cheeto. I think somewhere between the 15 and 20 range of your ranked fighters, right there on the cusp of if Sean wins, he's 15, 14, 13, somewhere right in there. Maybe a Rob Font, even an Andre Ewell who, Cheeto just beat. Definitely, I feel like same level, maybe a step down, but this next fight for Sean is huge when it comes to his stardom and his momentum. He really needs a win and a bounce back from this one. And then the main event, man, was Stipe and DC, and I mean, you had said it, his chin holds up, and you're going to take Stipe 10 out of 10 times, man. And that's exactly what happened. His chin held up. He made game plan changes every round, and as soon as he felt how much bigger and stronger he was in the clinch and putting DC up against the clinch, man, I mean, he used it, and he won. I have no problem with it. You get paid much more when you have that belt around your waist.
We didn't get to mention it whenever we had made our podcast last week, but as I watched the embeddeds over the course of the week, both of us, we texted each other and commented on how DC's focus was not on the fight. It was on retirement and getting better at golf than it was at all on this fight. So I really questioned DC's mindset going into the fight. He looked extremely nervous, like the weight of knowing that this is his last professional fight was really taking a toll on him. And then, you mentioned Stipe, his clinch work. Man, he really found out that he was stronger in the clinch, and it showed. I think DC landed the more powerful strikes, but Stipe's chin held up. He knew where those strikes were coming, and he knew when to, kind of tighten up and take a hit. So I can't knock him for that. I thought he did a really good job, and I don't think that the eye poke takes away from his overall success in that fight. He also got eye poked. It just happened that way.
Right. And, I mean, being honest, I'm a huge DC fan, but DC hit Stipe with about 20 of the same right hands out of the clinch that he hit him with in the first fight, and Stipe took it. So, that makes me think maybe that first fight, Stipe's chin wasn't healed from the Francis fight. Maybe I don't want to consider it a fluke, but maybe, fight ran back, it wouldn't happen,
Right. Well, we saw it go run back twice, and it didn't happen. So
absolutely, man. I hate it for DC. Huge fan of him, but in my opinion, Daniel Cormier, even after posting that Instagram message, it's hard for me to see him go out with no fans, losing like that with the eye poke. He's too much of a competitor, man. He didn't leave the gloves in the octagon or anything. Part of me thinks we'll see DC again.
I think so as well, and I think that we'll see him fight Brock Lesnar. That's going to be my call. I think that he'll come back for Brock. I think that's a good fight for him too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that wrapped up 252, not a winning night for either one of the two of us. Yeah.
Stipe, who does he get next?
Francis, without a doubt. I think Dana said it today. John Jones is going to get the winner of Stipe and Francis.
Well, I hope that's the case, but I think it'd be really foolish of the UFC not to go ahead and book Jones versus Stipe.
Stardom and stuff.
Right. While Stipe has the belt and is known as the greatest heavyweight ever, and then we have Jones, who is known right now as the GOAT. How can you not make that fight? It's very similar to GSP in his prime and Anderson Silva in his prime. There were plenty of times for that fight to be made. Just the UFC fumbled the bag, and Weidman took over, or GSP lost it, whatever might happen. They just never were able to sync it up. And right now you have a person who's vacated the light heavyweight belt and is ready to fight, and a champion. I think that it would be foolish of them not to go ahead and capitalize on that, even though Francis does deserve it. He can wait.
Absolutely. In my opinion, I would love to see Jones fight Stipe. I think it's a much better fight for Jones as well.
I think Jones gets them both done, but I'm with you. The odds are definitely in his favor against Stipe more than Francis.
But yeah, man, like I said, neither one of us had a good night. After the Herbert Burns lost, I was pretty much done for after that. But good night, little fights coming up. Gonna be watching them there in Colorado and stuff this weekend. Good little weekend playing ahead of us, man. And to kick it off, we got some smaller guys. We have Timur Valiev, who's 16-2. He's gonna be fighting Mark Striegl, who's 18-2. And currently, right now, I think it's a little bit more, but they opened up at the minus 500 favorite for Valiev with Striegl like the plus 380 or something. So not really giving Mark a shot to win this fight here. I know you and I really been talking about it this week. It's funny to us how you can have a fighter that's a minus 500. I think he's a minus 550 right now, and he's somehow plus money, almost plus 200 to finish the fight. I mean, you take a look at his resume and you see the decisions, but you also see a ton of finishes, and you see he's been fighting in PFL and World Series of Fighting. He's been fighting at a upper echelon, in terms of fighting organizations and stuff. Does have a win over Chris Gutierrez. Chris won the first fight, immediate rematch, and he won that one. He's coming in on a 6-fight win streak. He's got really good ground and pound, and I really do think, this guy can make a name for himself there. I'm not sure if this is 25 or 35. I didn't look.
It's at 35.
35.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark there on a 4-fight win streak. He also spent a little bit of time and won championship, man. So both these guys coming in with, in my opinion, a good resume as far as guys making their UFC debut. And then Mark's 2 losses. They're by submission. And then you have a guy who really wants the fight to go to the mat. So that's why I'm really all over these, plus money odds to get it done inside 2.5 rounds. What you think?
So a couple of things that are a little odd to me. Mark, yes, he does have those 2 sub losses. They're both to submission practitioners, though. Like, that's how they get the majority of their subs. So he just got caught in it. And that's not to say that Striegl isn't a submission artist himself. 14 of his 18 wins actually come by submission. So I'm curious to see if he can, have an attack off of his back whenever Valiev is holding him down. Because I do see Valiev coming in with a grappling heavy attack. It's just if he can maintain that control and, finish him. Hopefully he'll finish him, but the path to victory for Mark that I see is to catch him in a submission while he's on his back. I could definitely see him do something like that. One thing to note is Valiev 2 weeks ago, he was scheduled to fight Jamal Emmers at 145, and he was the minus 200 favorite against him. We saw Jamal come out there and do really, really well. That's a weight class above him, so I'm excited to see Valiev fight at 135. I'm curious to see if he still brings that, if he's going to be the bigger man in there or what.
Yeah, man, the odds makers seem to have a lot of hype behind him, man. They think he's about to go in here and put it on Mark. Like you said, Mark's a great submission artist himself. Probably going to have to play some defense and stuff, but for a minus 550, I think at the moment I'll take the under 2.5 at a plus 190 all day long. I think not a big unit bet. I think it was just a 1-unit bet or something for me, but man, I'll take it.
All day.
Next is Carlton Minus, who's 10-1, fighting Matthew Semelsberger, who's 6-2. I'll go ahead and let you take that one.
Yeah, so this one I'm actually really excited for. Carlton Minus, he opened up as a minus 365 favorite whenever the initial lines opened up, and has since come down to money had been coming in on Matthew this entire week, and it's since come down to a minus 150. So I'm hoping that trend continues and we can see people betting heavy on Matthew and then scoop up Carlton at even money possibly. That's my mindset going into this. I haven't been able to watch anything on Carlton Minus because all of his fights are in an Alaskan regional scene, and you have to pay like a subscription on Facebook to watch it. So I wasn't about to do that. His only fight outside of that Alaskan regional scene, we saw him fight Rick Story, and he lost. He lost pretty handedly. So that kind of tells me where he's at in his career. On the flip side, I saw plenty of tape on Matthew Semelsberger. A couple of things that I wrote down. He looks just like a corn-fed country dude, just bully, runs in there. He just looks to pressure his opponent, bully him up against the cage and get the finish. He's fought at 205 before, so, him coming down 35 pounds, I think he's going to be really, really big in there. I just, I'm curious to see if he can have that same powerful output all 3 rounds. Carlton, I got to think that a little something has almost 4-1 favorite against Matthew. So even though I haven't been able to actually watch him fight, I'm going to take him if it gets below minus 130, just because the odds are there. I don't see a line change of plus 250 and not get a little tempted to jump on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm right there with you. I got Carlton minus to get this one done. If Matthew does get this one done, it's without a doubt in the first round, in my opinion. He's going to come out with a very, very dangerous round 1 where he throws the kitchen sink at you. I was talking to you earlier, and I just said I felt like this dude thoroughly enjoyed the fight. He loves being in there, 3-fight win streak, and he brings the heat while he's in there, man. His level of competition, not as good as Carlton's, in my opinion, Alaskan FC, and they have some decent fighters over there. They really do. His Alaskan FC, like, decent fighters, and for Carlton to just finish, I think, every single one of them. That's what you want to see in a fight wrestler coming up. They might not have the best level of competition, but they don't need to be going to decision with them. They need to be finishing them, pretty quickly. And his last couple fights, he's taken opponents with much, much better records, opponents with 20 or so fights, 25 fights on the record, and he's still got to win, but not finished them like he has the other ones. He took the fight in PFL, I think the only fight he had in PFL since I got canceled with Rick Story, and, Rick Story used his wrestling and took him down, and I'm pretty sure choked him out or something, like arm bar or something like that. That's what I worry about with Carlton minus, is he's going to get out wrestled, and I don't see Matthew coming in here and wrestling. I think he's going to come in here and throw a big overhand right. He's got to make the fight dirty, got to have a good first round, because I think it's just going to be outclassed on the feet here by Carlton minus.
I'm with you on that.
And then we have Ike Villanueva, who's 16-10, taking on short notice opponent here in Jordan Wright, who they got him still at 10-0. So we'll talk about that here in a second. I know Ike was a small favorite and against, I think it was Jorge Gonzalez, who he's supposed to fight. So I'd have to check the odds on it now. But from what I've seen of the two, I got to think Ike's a pretty big favorite here. He was on a pretty big tear before he got the call to the UFC. I think he won like 5 fights in a row. And I actually I love Chase Sherman to death, but I actually thought Ike was going to come out here and put Chase Sherman away with his boxing. Ike's got a good left hand, real clean boxing, and he's got good power in his hands as well. Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja, man. He, not the fighting background of a lot of people. A lot of fighters have not the best home life growing up and stuff like that. And here you have a guy coming from what I've heard is one of the most rich families in Beverly Hills. This guy has been born with a silver spoon in his mouth since day one, and for some reason he wants to fight. Another guy, his competition level, man, it wasn't good, but he finished every single one of them by first round knockout. So it's what you want to see in a fighter. He's got great movement, real like karate style, likes to throw a whole bunch of kicks, but this man does not like to get hit. I will tell you that. His Contender Series fight, he got put out quick by Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, ended up getting overturned to a no contest, which is why he still got the record of 10-0. But technically, man, he got dusted. He got in there with some guy who likes to fight. In my opinion, Jordan's been gifted opponents. He doesn't like to fight, man. And if Ike wants to go in here and use his pressure, use his size, Jordan's actually might be the little bigger frame guy. He normally fights at middleweight, and he's like 6'2". He's got a huge frame for the division, and this one's going to be at 205, where I think Villanueva should be. Villanueva has bounced back between middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. I like him at light heavyweight. I thought he was just a little too small at heavyweight, but he has the speed and stuff that I like at heavyweight. So I'm curious to see him here at 205. against Jordan Wright. I think he's a much better striker. Jordan Wright did just he's coming off a win. So after the Contender Series loss, he took 2 years off. That's not something that I really like to see in a young fighter. I mean, I guess I can't really be the one to speak when you're undefeated and you get knocked out like that. It probably does a number to you to really, put you down a level, make you second guess where you're really at skill wise. And coming from a super rich family where you don't have to fight, I'd get the time off. Since then, he's been back in LFA and he's got him another win. Just coming up a weight class, man. He's fighting a guy with much better boxing and much more power.
I'm also leaning towards Ike. I think that he's going to come in the bigger man, him having just fought at heavyweight. I saw his body during that fight. I'm really happy that he moved back down to light heavyweight. It seems like his happy medium. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Jordan Wright not needing to fight. I think it's funny that you say that. I immediately draw a comparison to Sage Northcutt.
Yeah.
We saw it in a couple of Sage Northcutt's fight. It's like he doesn't enjoy getting hit, and whenever it comes down to like really getting that bringing out that dog in a fight, just doesn't have it. I actually remember the Contender Series fight where he got knocked out, and you're right, he turtled up the moment he got hit. Mm-hmm. So with Ike coming in before that Chase Sherman loss, you're right, it was 4 first round KOs, so he's going to bring that pressure early. And just knowing Jordan Wright's mentality going in there, I think that Ike's going to end up getting it done. I don't know what the odds are or what they look like right here, but I would lean more towards Ike for sure.
So
first round knockout. I had a first round knockout against his opponent that just dropped out, Jorge Gonzalez. I had first round knockout as well, and I don't see this one being any different.
I'm with you, brother. I like the first round knockout on Villanova's part. One thing I did forget to note there when I was talking about the cans that Jordan Wright was being gifted, that he was just knocking out in the first round. So he is 8-0 at one point, finally gets to call to LFA before his Contender Series fight. This dude is 8-0, and he had not fought a single guy with a win. Not even a winning record, a win in general. His first.
Looking at it right now, he fought a guy who was 0-21 at one point.
Before this guy was LFA with the fight before the Contender Series, his opponents had not even had a win inside the cage. That is spoon-fed opponents if I've ever seen them. The mindset. You don't have to fight. He's going to get KO'd in the first round, man. Taking it on such short notice and stuff against, like I said, not the bigger guy, but the much more, I feel like, fit guy for the division, and the much better fighter. You had mentioned how I told you he didn't like to take a punch. You had mentioned he curls up, he shells up when he gets hit, and he can't be doing that against Ike. I feel like if Ike just pushes him against the cage and puts one good combo on him, we see a finish in the first round.
I'm with you on that.
The next fight, man, was Austin Hubbard. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Austin Hubbard versus Joe Solecki. Currently, Austin Hubbard is a 12-4, and Joe Solecki is 9-2. And they do have Austin Hubbard as a slight underdog. Joe Solecki as a slight favorite. This is a really, really good fight, in my opinion, right here.
I definitely agree. Austin Hubbard, he actually opened up as the -120 favorite. We've since seen that line change. I'm going to keep on writing that out. That's another one where I'm going to let people just keep on putting money on Solecki, and hopefully I can get Hubbard at a great price. I'm really high on Hubbard. He's had a tough run in the UFC as far as opponents. Yep. His 2 losses in the UFC are against grappling heavy opponents in Davi Ramos and Marco Madison. Him being able to go 3 rounds with an Olympic wrestler and almost win, he almost knocked Marco Madison out cold in that 3rd round. You saw his gas tank completely depleted. Where Hubbard, he's training at Team Elevation. He's got Blades and Gaethje every single day that he's working with. I think that people are really underestimating Hubbard's ability. And so getting him at underdog value right now is pretty incredible. I expect to see that the line movement to stay the same and continue to money continuing to come in on Joe. And so if we can get Austin Hubbard above a plus 130, I think that we should hammer that line.
I'm kind of right there with you, man. I feel like Austin might be getting a little bit disrespected coming in as the underdog. I don't know if you remember, but he just made that Max Roshkoff guy fucking quit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the underdog in that fight. How do you give a UFC experienced guy underdog odds to a Max Roshkoff who was 5-0, I think, at the time, as green as can be? I mean, props to anybody who bet Austin Hubbard there, but you touched on the fight camp. Biggest, Team Elevation has a whole lot of success right now. The longer this fight goes, the more this is going to play into Austin Hubbard's game, the cardio, the striking. You had touched on the grapplers, man. You take your UFC debut against Davi Ramos. You're fighting not just an Olympic wrestler, man, a silver medalist wrestler in the Olympics. This is as top, the second best wrestler in the damn world in your weight class, and for you to be primarily a striker and to go the distance with him and stuff, I like Austin Hubbard here at the plus money as well. I think it's a close fight because we have seen Austin Hubbard get rear naked choked in the past, and we've seen Solecki's, record just be full of rear naked chokes and stuff like that, man. Solecki is a stud on the mat, and if it got there, I do feel Solecki could get it done on the mat. But I'm confident in Austin Hubbard's, ability to defend the submission and stuff. And just look at the fact that Joe Solecki is not Davi Ramos. He's not Marco Madsen. And it's hard to say Austin Hubbard's grappling is weak when when it's those guys you're grappling with. So I'm real hesitant to say that Austin Hubbard lacks the ground game that he needs to get this fight done. But I just think Joe's got a better submission game. If it hit the mat, I feel like he might be able to take the back.
I could see that being an issue, but to be completely honest, Joe Solecki doesn't sniff the jock strap of Marco Madsen. And if Austin Hubbard can handle that and continue to get up every single time that he gets taken down, I really don't have much concern over Solecki's, power or ability to keep control of him. So I think with Austin working with Gaethje and at Team Elevation, he's only going to get better. It's one of those guys where he's going to make improvements every single fight that he comes out there. And I see that trend to continue. Where Solecki, it's not like I'm taking anything away from him. His win over Matt Wyman is credible. It's legit for sure. But we haven't seen Joe go out of the first round, but a couple of times in his career, where we know Austin Hubbard's going to bring it all 3 rounds. So unless Solecki can get it done early, I really see Hubbard running away with this.
Yeah,
I think it's a relatively easy pick for an underdog, to be honest.
I'm right there with you. I think Joe's got to get it done the first round because the longer this goes, Austin's going to put a pace on you that I don't think Joe can handle. We had touched on him, making Max quit. Max was a damn good wrestler, man. I'm pretty sure national champion or something like that in college. He was a very, very good wrestler. And when you can't get the takedown on Austin Hubbard, he really, and that when you're gassing yourself trying to get repeated takedowns on him, his cardio is there for the full 15 minutes, man, like you said. And it'd be a long night for Joe Solecki if he gasses early, not being able to get that takedown.
This is actually my pick of the night. If I had one underdog pick to bet, this would be my one right here.
With you, brother. The next fight on the fight card, we got Amanda Lemos, who's 7-1, fighting Mizuki Innoue, who's 14-5. In my opinion, this is your best underdog, your underdog play of the night. They got Amanda Lemos at plus 140 to Mizuki Innoue's minus 165 when they opened up. I've seen so many people betting Lemos here at plus money this week. I think there's a ton of value on here. She got a really, really good submission game, and her last finish in submission over Miranda Granger, I think, in the first round was super, super impressive in my opinion. She does finish a whole bunch of her fights. She's a tough girl, and that's kind of the exact opposite of Mizuki Innoue. She tends to get it done over 15 minutes by outpointing you. That being said, I feel like Amanda Lemos really needs to get this fight done kind of quick because the later it goes, her cardio, it tends to let her down sometime. And Mizuki Innoue was very tested over 15 minutes with a ton of decision victories. Innoue she's been in there with really good girls, man. I know she's been in there with Jandiroba. Alexa Grasso, Carolina Kalakawood, or however you say her name. KK, yeah. But just looking at it, Mizuki Innoue is only going to be giving up about an inch in reach and in height. But man, she's small. She's got a real petite frame. Where Amanda, man, she can beef up for a girl. I feel like we're going to see a much bigger difference when we look in the ring on Saturday night than just a 1 inch reach and height advantage there. Lemos, I feel like she's more dangerous on the feet because she's got the power, and she's without a doubt more dangerous on the mat. But Mizuki really can outpoint her for 15 minutes. The odds, I think they're 50-50 pick 'em almost, in my opinion. I don't think it should be exactly where it is, and that's kind of where I'm playing Lemos at a plus 140 there is what I snagged her at. I could be a bad pick because, Mizuki Innoue is, 14-5. She's got twice the fights Amanda's had. But I like Amanda to get this done inside the distance, actually.
So I don't hate that pick. You talked about Lemos being big in there. She's fought at 135. That's where quite a few of her fights take place, and this one being a strawweight. I'm curious to see her cut that.
Yeah.
And then that being said, she has a loss to Leslie Smith, who's a 145er herself. So she's not gonna. It's not gonna be a huge. I don't think it's gonna be a problem for Lemos to kind of take control of Mizuki, just being the far bigger fighter. I know Lemos, she really likes to get inside and get a body lock and then utilize her trips and kind of keep that top control so that she can, control the fight. Mizuki, really good grappling defense. So we know Lemos is going to try and get in there and utilize that trip, but Mizuki was able to outlast Jenna Darova for 15 minutes. And we just saw what Verna can do in the first 30 seconds against Felice. So I really give Mizuki credit for being able to stay in there with Verna. She's 8 years younger. So I think that could play a factor in it. I don't know how the weight cut's going to go for Amanda Lemos. So fighting at 135 prior to this and then now cutting down to 115 and being 33 years old, I'm curious to see how that translates. Mizuki, she's on the 2-fight win streak. She's usually fighting at 125 pounds, so she's also dropping a weight class. I think it'll be a little bit easier for her. That being said, I'm with you. I don't think that the odds are really showing how close this fight actually is. I don't think that I'm confident enough to place a bet on Lemos, but I do think that this is going to be, a contender for fight of the night. And I don't say that very often on girl fights, but this one really does have everything it needs to be a good fight to watch.
You leaning with the new there?
Yeah, I think I am. Just with her ability to kind of outpoint her, use her feints, be able to land that.
Dobson, man, she's hard to hold down.
100%. She's got really good feints, and she's able to, be smart with her striking. I think that she's going to be able to outpoint her to victory. I could see Lemos getting it done inside the distance, though. I think, like I said, I think this really does have potential for fight of the night. I'm just curious to see how it plays out. I don't think I'm going to be making a bet on it because I'm not confident either way.
And then next fight we have Daniel Rodriguez, who's 12-1, fighting Takashi Sato, 16-3. And this is a good fight. Currently they have D-Rod at the minus 180 when he opened up, and Takashi Sato opened up at the plus 155. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, so I think the odds are actually good. I put a little sum on Daniel Rodriguez. I like him. He's on an 8-fight win streak. He just beat Tim Means, who we saw, utilize his game plan and get it done a week and a half ago. So I think that that's probably his best win on his record. I know that sometimes when Rodriguez is getting pressured, he kind of has that tall man defense like James Vick and kind of just sticks his head, leans back, and kind of exposes himself for big, long hooks, where Takashi comes in there and kind of throws those heavy hooks with a lot of power. So I could see that getting him into some trouble if Takashi, pressures him. That being said, I've seen Takashi being listed at 5'8". I've seen him being listed at 5'10". So I'm curious to see that size difference whenever they face off. And then I'll kind of be able to make a little bit better decision on this. I know that Takashi, he KO'd Ben Saunders and Jason Witt, there you go. KO'd Ben Saunders and Jason Witt. Ben Saunders was on his way out. It was a pretty win right there. And then he got matched up with Belal Muhammad, which is like a huge step up in competition than what he had been facing. And we saw Belal completely outclass him. So we definitely know where Takashi Soto's like ceiling is. I wonder if he had, fixed any of the problems that he had with Belal. I just think that Belal was a better fighter. It would be in Takashi's benefit to try and get this one done early. I think that the biggest strength in his game is his strength and power. So if he can utilize that pressure and get an early KO against Rodriguez, that's what I could see happening. Although I feel like Daniel Rodriguez is the far superior fighter. So my thought is a Daniel Rodriguez bet is good in my book. But if you're going to hedge it a little bit, a Takashi Soto first round knockout would also be a solid bet.
So, man, this is a very good fight. So you had just touched on, Lemos and Mizuki might be, a good fight of the night. The D-Rod Takashi Sato is actually my pick for fight of the night right there, man. Both these guys, they really do come to put on a show. Daniel Rodriguez only lost to Victor Reina, who we actually just saw finished on the Contender Series last night. That's D-Rod's only loss.
Okay.
But you touched on an 8-fight win streak, 2-0 in the UFC. So beat Tim Means with a guillotine choke, which he's got a great guillotine choke that Sato really does need to watch out for. But his last fight was against a guy named Gabe Green, and D-Rod was hitting him with everything he had, and Gabe Green was pushing forward with some of the best cardio and, chin I've ever seen. I love to see a fighter not be able to finish a guy, be able to hit him with everything he has, and not be able to put him away. I love to see how a fighter handles that. And he handled it great, in my opinion. He didn't gas himself out trying to put him away. He didn't get discouraged. He stood back. He landed his boxing. And, D-Rod's got great boxing. All the Latinos got the best left hooks in the game. I'm calling actually a left hook finish here, D-Rod, to get it done on the feet. You had touched about Sato's first round, man. I definitely think that's where Sato is the most dangerous. I think he's going to slow down a little bit more than D-Rod here. One thing that I like to note about this fight, and one of the reasons I think it's going to be such a good fight, neither one of these guys have ever fought anybody with a losing record. Their entire resume, not a single opponent with a losing record. These guys right here, both young in their UFC career, only 2 and 3 fights, but guys that I see being in the UFC for a while and putting on good fights, guys that I think are very tested and deserve their spot in the UFC. I'm excited for this fight. I think D-Rod gets it done with just the power and boxing on the feet, though.
And within the distance?
Yeah.
How do you see it going up?
I think he finishes it with the left hook. I'm going to even call the shot.
Nice. Okay.
And then, man, next fight, we have Mariya Agapova, who's 9-1, versus Shana Dobson, who's 3-4. Currently, when they open it up, Mariya Agapova minus 900 to the Shana plus 600. There's so much hype behind Mariya Agapova, even after her loss to Tracy Cortez on the Contender Series. Mariya Agapova is mean. The girl loves to fight, and she is super, super well balanced. She's got really, really good hands that impress me, and she has really good submissions. One thing that she lacks a little bit is the wrestling game. And that's where we really saw Tracy Cortez kind of take over, was in the wrestling transitions, the double legs, the single legs up against the cage. Shayna's not going to go out there and do that. Shana Dobson trains out of Team Elevation. She's been on The Ultimate Fighter. But she's fighting for her job right now, in my opinion. There's no way you keep a girl in the UFC, the best MMA organization in the world. You can't keep a girl who's 3-5 and cut some of the people that you have. It's criminal, in my opinion. She's fighting for her job here. In my opinion, a 3-4 girl does not deserve to be in the UFC, regardless. Definitely needs some more work in Invicta and stuff before coming up here. That being said, Shayna's a little stocky, man. For flyweight, her only real chance, in my opinion, is to land just an absolute bomb that shuts Agapova's lights out in the pocket. Because outside of that, I think Agapova is the better fighter on the mat, standing anywhere. She has actually been in Invicta, which I love to see girls come to Invicta, just like I love to see some people come to LFA. I think LFA is the best minor organization that people come from prospect-wise. And when it comes to ladies, man, Invicta is by far the best breeding ground for good girls that prospects in the UFC. She's only 23 years old, which is also crazy. Agapova has a long road ahead of her in the UFC. I touched on how crappy Shana Dobson's record is, but I can't shit on her without saying that the losses are to Roxanne Modafferi, are to Nico Montano. Girls like Sabina Mazo. It's girls that are in the UFC now, that beat her earlier, but you can't keep a girl who's 3-4 with a losing record at the highest level of MMA,
I'm with you. That being said, it's the women's flyweight division, and we've seen Shevchenko come in as the minus 1,200 favorite against the last 5 girls she's fought. So, really, they're looking for anybody. You touched on that she trains out of Team Elevation. You got to know that she's going to be improving like huge steps every single time that she comes out there. So I'd hate to just, completely mark her off. Even though that's kind of what all the odds makers have done now. We at least got to touch one. Yes, she's on that losing streak, but it's against top-level competition. So unless Agapova plans on being in the UFC and doing well, I don't think that you can compare her to the girls that she's already lost to. So I have hope for Shana. I think that, she could come out and surprise us. I think if she even put on a performance like Yoder did against Souza, that she could stay in the UFC and actually get some wins. That being said, Agapova is a monster, and she's on a 3-fight win streak that are all ending in the first round. She's going to get it done, and I think it's going to be relatively quickly. You had told me earlier in the week that the under 1.5 at minus 145 was a little tempting for you. I went ahead and took it. I think it's a good bet. I've got Agapova winning relatively easy.
When do you see a ladies fight under 1.5 round at a minus 145 one? It's very rare.
Never. Never.
Is a massive favorite over Felice Herrig, and that was still like plus 200 or something, and plus 150. It's like
right.
When you see odds like that, even the odds maker know that Agapova, in my opinion, is about to come out here and dust Shana in round 1. She just fought Hannah Cyphers, who she just beat in under 3 minutes just like 2 months ago. So she's going to be in good shape versus Shana not fighting, this year. I feel like everything leans toward Agapova to get it done inside the distance Saturday.
For the sake of my bet, I would like her to get it done, first round. But at the same time, man, I really would like to see Dobson come in and at least impress us a little bit, at least offer something to where she might have to change her game plan and then she gets starched. I just hope that it's not a complete ass whooping and it's not something that should even be sanctioned by the commission,
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be, though.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just hopeful, I'm like, well, dang, you're already 3-4. Let's get you that 500 record at least.
Yeah. And then the next fight is another fun fight on the fight card. We have Marcin Prachnio, who's 13-4, fighting Mike Rodriguez, who's 10-4. Currently, Prachnio is opened at the plus 190 dog to Mike Rodriguez, who's minus 230 favorite when the odds lines came out there. What you got going down on that one?
I think this fight is rough to call. I think it's two very, very sloppy fighters. Mm-hmm. Marcin, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. One to Magomed Ankilov. You cannot discredit him for that. That's a monster in the division, and we'll see him go up and up and up in the division. His other loss is to Sam Alvey, and it's like, I know Sam Alvey throws heat. I get it. He could knock anybody out in the world with a well-timed shot. That being said, Alvey should not be knocking you out. Alvey. Yeah.
That's the 2018 Sam Alvey that's on like a 3-fight winning streak and stuff, though. That's not the 2020 light heavyweight Sam Alvey that's getting beat up by everybody. Sam Alvey made a little run at middleweight there for a second.
I get it, but we're talking about the same footwork, Sam Alvey. You know, he got lucky in those shots. I don't know. He's on Derek Lewis's level of footwork. So I like Sam Alvey a lot. I just don't know if he's that upper echelon fighter. I gotta knock Marcin for getting knocked out by Sam Alvey. You know. That being said, Marcin, he's gonna go after the finish. He has 8 first-round finishes. He's a Polish fighter, and he's just sloppy. That's all I can really say. That was the biggest takeaway I got, is that he'll go after the finish like Fabricio Verdun did against Stipe. Just going after it, running towards him, and that's how he gets knocked out. So hopefully he can be a little more technical, a little bit more reserved, and pick his shots, because I do think that he has a pretty clear path to victory. Where Mike Rodriguez, something to note, he's got 8.5-inch reach advantage on Marcin. That's pretty significant. His losses being to the Da Un Jung guy, who I'm not too familiar with, and then Devin Clark, who's just going to bring that pace and that wrestling. You can't knock him for the Devin Clark loss.
Right.
All but 2 of Mike Rodriguez's win are by first round knockout. I think this is another one where it's relatively easy money for a first round knockout. I don't know what the odds are, but I would definitely be looking into that. Mm-hmm. And Mike Rodriguez, 100% finish rate. So even though those first 2 or the other 2 that weren't finished in the first round, he still finished them. So he's gonna get the finish. In his last 4 fights, you can argue that he's only won 1 of them. His record is 1-2-1. That no contest being to John Allen that he lost the decision to before they overturned it. Mm-hmm. Mike Rodriguez came into that John Allen fight as the -450 favorite. So they thought that he had something to that fight as well, and he lost. Now maybe that was due to John Allen's help. But I think it says something that maybe Rodriguez just isn't there. He's not as developed of a fighter as people might seem to think he is. So I like the Marcin first round TKO, even if it's just a little sprinkle and you might put half a unit on it or something. This fight, I would stay away from if it's not a first round TKO, just because of their sloppiness.
You just took the words out of my mouth, brother. First thing I was going to tell you about this fight, it's not going to see the judges, and I don't know who's going to finish it. I'm completely staying away from this fight. If I can find some odds of it not going to the judges' scorecard that tempt me to play it, I'll be all over it. These guys, you touched on it, sloppy. Prachnio 0-2 in his UFC career, and he's been finished in both of those. He's taken a 2-year layoff, much needed 2 years for the chin to heal. But the 2-year layoff does nothing when you're fighting a guy with the frame that Mike Rodriguez has. Man, he's jacked. He's got the 8-inch reach on him. Everything is in the making for Mike to knock him out. Again, in my opinion, Mike, his competition, man, is bad. It's not good. And we saw a taste of that when he just got matched up with Daum Jun. So Daum Jun, fun fact about him, it was in China, so it was in dude's hometown, where you're wanting to fight. Daum Jun is on a 12-fight win streak right now, man. So, I mean, on a 12-fight win streak, when you're fighting Mike Rodriguez, he only had like 12 fights underneath his belt, a bit too big of a step up in competition. He looked great on the Contender Series, but man, you can get a fluke knockout on the Contender Series sometimes, in my opinion, and then come into the UFC and make a shell of yourself. We've seen it, a couple times. I think Alon Cruz had like a wicked flying knee, and then he fights Carlisle and just gets that fucking elbow from hell to the back. Mm-hmm. We've seen guys who have awesome Contender Series knockouts come to the UFC and not live up to the hype, and this is one that I think's not going to live up to the hype. I'm leaning toward Mike because of the size, the muscle he's going to carry, and just his sheer athleticism that he's going to bring to the table. It's going to be much quicker on the feet. That being said, if he doesn't get it done in round 1, I'm really worried about the cardio. Not to say that Marcin's cardio is going to be there either, but Mike's going to throw heat at you for that first round, and if he doesn't get it done, I'm really worried. But I do got a Mike Rodriguez first round finish.
Looks like the odds makers do as well. The under 1.5 is a -125. So they understand that it's more than likely going to end in that first round. It's just if both their chins hold up, I could see it being a Kimbo Dada 5000 type fight. I don't think that they should be that high up on the main card. I would have actually liked to have seen them a little bit lower.
He should have been.
Huh? Hubbard should be switched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the co-main event, we have Ovince, Preux 24-14, fighting Alonzo Menifield 9-1. When they opened up, they opened up OSP at the slight dog at +105 to Alonzo's -125. I know we might have a little debate right here, brother. Go ahead and start us.
Yeah, so let me first off, whenever they opened up on MMA fight odds, Ovince St. Preux was actually the -165 favorite whenever it originally opened up. And then now he's the underdog at +115.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty significant line change right there. Everybody's wanting to count out OSP, man. I don't understand why. First off, he's fighting out of Knoxville, so we gotta, we're repping our Tennessee boy for sure. Secondly, we saw him jump up to heavyweight and fight Ben Rothwell. Didn't go how he wanted to. He was real timid, really low volume. Although it did seem like whenever he did decide to engage with Ben Rothwell, it was with a lot of power and something that Ben Rothwell really didn't want. That being said, he's 2-4 in his last 6. Everybody's questioning his chin, saying that he's been hurt in the past and that he's facing another huge hitter, and if his chin's going to hold up. I'm not so convinced. I don't know where everybody's getting that. His last KO loss is in 2016 against Jimmy Manuwa, and then his only other TKO KO loss was in 2009. So where is this, his chin being called into question? Since his loss to Jimmy Manuwa in 2016, he's fought Ozdemir, Corey Anderson, Tyson Pedro, Dominic Reyes, and Ben Rothwell, and he hasn't been knocked out yet. Why the hell do we think that Alonzo Menifield, who's got 10 fights under his belt, is going to do it? Ovince St. Preux has an 80-inch reach. I think that if he were to take Alonzo Menifield down, we could actually see him completely outclass him. He's got 4, St. Preux chokes, I guess is what they're calling it now. Record. His top game is fucking good. People are counting out Manuwa or counting out Ovince, and I really don't understand why. He is proven. I mean, you can call him a gatekeeper in light heavyweight, but he's shown that he can get it done on the feet by decision and from submission. So I see plenty of paths of victory for Ovince St. Preux, where I see absolutely one path to victory for Alonzo. He's coming off the loss to Devin Clark, who was actually the only opponent to make it out of that first round from Alonzo Menifield. And he almost didn't. Sure, he his eye exploded whenever he took that shot. That being said, we saw somebody with a little bit of experience, that wrestling grit, go out there and get it done. And I just don't see where everybody's so high on Alonzo Menifield. I watched some of his fights, and yeah, man, he comes in there with some fucking heat. But I don't think it's any more than Dominic Reyes, Ozdemir, or Ben Rothwell's going to come in there with. That being said, Ovince lost all of those that I'm mentioning. So I understand that, but I'm just saying that I'm not questioning his chin, and I don't see another path to victory for Alonzo. He's training, another thing I wrote down is he's training out of Fortis MMA. So he's training with Alisson, Geoff Neal, and Ryan Spann. So I like that. I like that about him. I just don't see him getting it done. I'm actually planning on playing a Ovince St. Preux underdog bet. I think that the money will continue to go in on Alonzo, and we're going to get Ovince St. Preux at +130 or something. I think that's a solid ass bet. I mean, it's another one of these ones that I tend to get myself in trouble in by saying, if his chin can hold up, he's the better fighter, blah, blah, blah. We just got in trouble with that JDS Rosenstruck.
Right.
I don't think Ovince St. Preux's chin is suspect whatsoever. I think that his timidness and low volume, that's something he could lose to decision, but I don't think Alonzo is going to be able to continue with his high volume because of the power that he throws. So I see if it goes outside of the first round, I'll give this to Ovince St. Preux 10 out of 10 times. I even think Ovince St. Preux has the body. Alonzo's body is incredible, but Ovince St. Preux is a D1 college football player. He's as legit as you can get as far as body-wise. So I could definitely see him even taking Alonzo down in that first round and just submitting his ass, just absolutely showing him that he's not in this upper echelon fighter, at least right now, being 9-1 and having the majority of them first round. I'm excited about this one, man. And I think Ovince St. Preux is going to prove us something.
Yeah, man. So you touched on a ton of the things, that I was going to touch on as well, but I'm on the opposite side of the boat, man. I think Menifield's going to get this done on Saturday night. He's coming off his first career loss to Devin Clark. Guys usually bounce back well from their first loss, typically young guys. You had touched on the Fortis MMA, 17-3 in 2020. The gym is very successful, if not outside of city kickboxing with Israel and Hooker and Volkanovski. Fortis is probably the best gym in terms of success right now in 2020. I like Menifield, man. I still consider him to be a little green. And you're right, we have seen him get outclassed by a wrestler. But when have we ever seen OSP come in here and just stick to the game plan and wrestle? OSP, I literally am not one of the people who think his chin is going away, man. You touched on it. He's only been finished twice in his career by knockout or something. And the fight with Michael Alazachek or something like that. OSP literally got pieced up for like 5 minutes. Hit with every shot that Alazachek had, and he took it, man, and let the dude gas, and he took him down, and he Von Flued him. The path to victory I see OSP doing right here, just like you said. But I think he's got to get out of the first round. I think Alonzo will be a little too powerful in the first round to submit. That being said, OSP's resume, just experience in general, it's hard to count out in this fight because he is the much superior fighter on the mat. Man, Alonzo Menifield, I really do think is the future of the light heavyweight division. I actually think he touches gold one day, man. I really like this guy. He's got a ton of power. Devin Clark was if his dad wasn't screaming in his ear for 15 minutes, he was giving up in that first round, man. That eye was busted up bad, and props to him, dude, because I would have wanted out too after that. I'd have been on the ground and taken my paycheck. But like I said, I think the first loss does good for a young fighter. He's in a good gym with good coaches around him. I think he bounces back from this one with a good win.
Oh, okay, I gotta
competition from his last loss, right? Devin Clark, you lose to Devin Clark and then you get OSP.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's why I'm asking you. How are you making this bet? Do you say that his path to victory is a first round knockout? Do you think that Alonzo Menifield is going to knock out Ovince St. Preux, who's managed to get it out of the first round with every opponent that he's ever fought? Every opponent.
I do. I did not like OSP at heavyweight.
I didn't either, but you're talking about a guy who weighed in at 265 and now a guy who's weighing in at 205.
I think he was trigger shy. I don't think he was afraid to pull the gun because, the power that the heavyweights have, and Menifield has power.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that he was able to outlast the power that the heavyweights have. And Ben Rothwell, with a guy who's 265 pounds, he was able to outlast the first round. And then same with Reyes. I think Reyes offers similar power to Alonzo Menifield. And then Ozdemir coming out with that heavy, first round KO style as well. I just don't see Ovince St. Preux getting knocked out in the first round. He's been able to avoid that his entire career. And I don't think a guy with 10 fights on his record is going to do it, especially one who just got shown that he can get outclassed by a guy with a little bit more experience. I don't like the Alonzo bet, man.
The Michael Olazachek, even though that's a win by OSP, that's a bad fight for OSP, man. He got touched up a bunch. And
doesn't it still prove that point, though, that he's going to make it out of that first round and that he can handle that early pressure?
He can't take that from Alonzo. If Alonzo hits him with, in my opinion, any of the shots that Olazejek hit him with, he's going to put him away. Man, that's unreal power. I mean, I don't care how good anybody's chin is. Alonzo, nobody's chin has taken one of those.
I hope that Ovince St. Preux comes out, takes him down immediately, like times up Alonzo's first overhand right, goes in for the takedown and just takes him down. And even if he doesn't do anything for that first round, try and make Alonzo get up and try and take out some of that power.
Right.
I think that would be his best game plan.
If he does not come in here with grappling in his game plan at all, do you see him losing?
No. If he can make it out of the first round, I still give OSP the win.
I mean, I like that. I mean, Alonzo is 100% finish rate like all in the first round. So, I mean,
it's just another one. I have not seen him prove himself at all. And the one time that he did fight somebody who I think is UFC caliber and Devin Clark, he did get that L. It was a close fight too. It wasn't like one-sided by any means, but he did get that L. And then, like you said, it's not a step down in competition going from Devin Clark to OSP. So I don't know why. I don't know why he's the favorite. I think the odds makers had it right when they opened up OSP as a -165. Not that big of a favorite. Obviously, he could get knocked out, but I love seeing OSP as an underdog. I think that's really, really good value on him, even though I am fully aware of the of the dangers in that first round. Alonzo could knock out John Jones in the first round. I wouldn't even be 100% confident on that fight in the first round alone. But outside of that, we've never seen him. Or when we have seen him outside of that first round, he hasn't looked good. So I'm curious. I just really like the odds for OSP.
I don't blame you. I do too as well, man. The veteran to be an underdog like that is, I mean, it's hard to pass up on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, in the main event, talk about some veterans, man. We have Frankie Edgar is 22-8, fighting Pedro Munhoz is 18-4. Opening up, Pedro is a pretty significant favorite. I think at like the -240, and the comeback on Frankie at like +200, something around the range of that. Then Frankie has been at the top of every single division he's been in. And, man, the last couple of years, Pedro's done nothing but fight the top guys at 35. The fourth time being scheduled here, man, so hopefully they make the walk on Saturday night. It's a fight I've been really wanting to see, man, because I've, said for a while I thought Frankie could easily make 35. It blows my mind that he's the 155-pound champion at one point in time, because, man, he wouldn't touch the top 15 in lightweight right now, So it's just crazy. Times have changed, man. He's 38 years old, which is, I mean, if you would ask me, I mean, I might have said a little, 40, 41. I mean, Frankie's been around, man. This is his 35 debut. He's on a 2-fight losing streak at 45 there. He's been in some wars, man, as well. So the chin has kind of started to let him down as of late. I know he's had, wars with like Gray Maynard, BJ Penn. Both of them. He's had trilogies with both of them. I mean, man, I can't say anything really bad about him, man, because when you're losing to Max, Ortega, Korean Zombie, like, Frankie doesn't beat any of those guys at any point in his career, much less at 38, outsized, everything, So, I mean, 45 and 55 are, I mean, it was a bad weight class for him, in my opinion. I don't know why he wasn't at 35 a long time ago, because he's literally the exact same size as Pedro Munhoz and stuff, And it's not like he carries a ton of muscle either. This is where he should have been the whole time. I'm worried about, I always have to be worried about the chin. You take an extra 10 pounds of water out of the body, how that's going to see. And we've seen Pedro swing with some power, but, I mean, we really only seen Pedro knock out Cody, and that's after it just got, sketchy for a second when they were just throwing right hands after, literally just lining up and seeing whose right hand landed first. I mean, Frankie's very smart with a good fight IQ. He's not going to do that. What I like about Frankie is, dude, his movement, man. He does not stop. Like, Frankie holds the record for most octagon time. He's been in the octagon longer than any other fighter in UFC history. He is going to be there for 25 minutes, where I don't think we've have a 5-round main event yet, period. So I actually bet the over 3, maybe over 3.5.
Year and a half.
Goes to decision. One thing that I like what Frankie does, he utilizes that DC technique that DC used against Stipe. Frankie hits really, really well with his right hand out of the clinch, and something that I think will be good here because I think he might, with the speed, kind of clinch up a little bit with Pedro, kind of catch him on the way off because we're definitely going to see Frankie, in my opinion, even though he's the one dropping the weight class, I still think he's going to have the speed advantage in the hands. You got Pedro Munhoz, who, I mean, the Cody Garbrandt knockout got you, a ton of height behind you and stuff, and got you the number one contender spot almost with Aljamain or something like that. He's a little flat-footed, man. He tends to get outpointed by people with a lot of movement, with a lot of kicks. But, I mean, what I don't really like is about this fight being the fourth time scheduled is these guys have been in camp for a long time. And man, Frankie's 38 years old. It's your body needs a break, man. You're used to a 6 to 8 week fight camp, and I'm sure these guys have been in camp for going on, 10 to 14 weeks or something like that now. Of constantly having to be in shape. He's shaving the extra 10 pounds off of himself and stuff. So a lot of stuff tells me, not to go with Frankie here. That he's still going to use his veteran experience to get the fight to decision, to get it to the judges' scorecard, to avoid Pedro's dangerous right hand in the clinch. He has much better fight IQ than Cody Garbrandt. I think he'll utilize it, but we've seen Frankie be able to wrestle some people like Yair Rodriguez and stuff, and Pedro's not somebody that he really just wants to lay and wrestle on and sit in his guard and stuff like that. So I actually see the fight being on the feet. I think Pedro just gonna land the better shots, but not get the finish.
So you touched on Frankie being 38 years old. I think that he should have made that cut way earlier in his career. It is kind of crazy to think that he was a champion at 155. That's wild seeing what 155ers look like today. He's 1-3 in his last 4, and 2 of those 3 losses coming by KO. I know one of them was to Ortega and then to Zombie. So Zombie, he's explosive as ever. He's incredible. I actually really like him. And then Ortega, I'm almost positive he took that fight on short notice. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of things. Maybe he wasn't ready for that Ortega fight, or his chin wasn't ready. He hadn't
did take it on short notice, like after him and Max's fight fell out or something, and that's why they ended up rewarding him with that fight again. Even when he was on like a 1-fight win streak or something. Right.
So I don't think that it's fair to say Frankie's chin is suspect yet. Although, cutting down that extra 10 pounds, I can't say that that's going to be good for his chin. Something I haven't heard anybody touch on is Frankie's success with people his size or shorter. Mm-hmm. Other than Aldo, he's beat the guys that are his size, Swanson, Faber, Mendez. That's his
BJ Penn.
Yeah. Those are all guys that are his size that he does really, really well against. And I don't think you could say the same for Holloway or Ortega. Those are guys that are much, much taller than him, much younger than him, and have just kind of advanced his game. Frankie, he hasn't necessarily made a ton of huge improvements in his game, even from his BJ Penn fights. He kind of fights the same. And I'd hate to say that he's not developing with the time. Like, I don't think that he's Gilbert Melendez, where his game didn't evolve at all. I think that Frankie's made slight adjustments, but you know what you're going to get whenever he comes in there. And then, he's in the Aldo losses. Some of the takeaways I noticed were Aldo's low calf kicks, his leg kicks. He started chopping away on Frankie early, cut down on that movement. And that, that's something that Pedro Munhoz in his last few fights has really really focused on is his low calf kicks. So I expect Pedro Munhoz to, start throwing those early, try and cut down on Frankie's movement. Just so Frankie, isn't able to move around the cage like I know that he wants to. Let's see. Frankie, if he does start getting touched up on the feet, I got to assume that he's going to try and go back to his wrestling background and shoot for some takedowns. I don't think that's going to work against Munhoz. I don't think it's going to – well, there's a couple of things. Here's a couple of things. I don't think it's going to work on Munhoz because Aljamain Sterling tried it 7 times and got stuffed all 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't – I think that speaks volumes right there. And then like you just did right there, he's going to be looking for Frankie's neck whenever he takes those shots. And I got to think that if Frankie is taking those shots, it's out of desperation. So he might not be, 100% there when he's shooting for it. And Pedro Munhoz can lock up a guillotine submission. He will completely leave his feet and go for it. He's clean. He's clean. Really everywhere, striking and grappling. So I see Pedro Munhoz getting this done. I just don't know if he's going to be able to finish Frankie. And that's kind of where, you touched on his fight time. He averages over 16 minutes of fight time. And it's like by far the most fight time of any fighter in the UFC. I also bet on the over 3.5 rounds. I see Pedro Munhoz getting this done. Also, I see him getting it done relatively easy. I don't want to completely, mark out Frankie just because he has proven to us that he's that upper echelon fighter and he deserves to be in there. I just don't think that his first fight at bantamweight at 35 years old against Pedro Munhoz, who's on a tear right now, is going to be his path to another belt. So I give this one to Pedro Munhoz, relatively easy. I don't really see where Frankie wins it. Nope. After breaking it down just in my head right there, I don't see a path to victory for Frankie. I think that he could possibly outlast him, and in those 4th and 5th rounds, maybe something happens just because we haven't seen Munhoz in the championship rounds ever. So other than the fact that there's an unknown on Munhoz's side, I think Munhoz outclasses him, which is tough to say against somebody like Frankie Edgar, getting outclassed. That's wild.
25 minutes, right?
Right.
Yeah, but, I'm right there with you, man. I really do think Pedro's a good fighter, man, he's fought a lot of the top dogs at 35 and stuff, and Frankie needs a little bit slighter edge of opponent there, in my opinion, to make the 35 debut. Pedro is a tall task. I like him to get it over 25 minutes to get it done by decision, but you had touched on getting the neck. I actually had that written down here as well and forgot to mention it, bro. He's got like 7 guillotine chokes. I do not see Frankie shooting in this. I said something about clinching up and using the right hand out of the clinch and stuff. And I think I don't think he wants to take it to the ground. And Pedro's leg kicks going to be massive. Really got to stop the movement of Frankie. And at the same time, when you have good jiu-jitsu like that, you're not afraid to throw a kick, man. I feel like you would maybe, I wouldn't say welcome it, but completely okay with him if this fight were to hit the mat.
Whenever I found out that Aljo was 0 for 7 against Munhoz, that said a lot to me. That was really all I needed to hear to know that Frankie wasn't going to be able to do it. At least in these first 3 rounds, I don't see Frankie getting it.
Absolutely, man. Anything else on the fights this week?
How do you see it? How do you see the main event going down?
I got Pedro Munhoz 50-49.
50-49. Okay. So you see Edgar getting some rounds. Or you mean 49-48?
What did I say?
You said 50-49.
No, my bad. Hold on. 4-1, Pedro.
49-46.
49-46.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that actually. I don't mind that at all. If Pedro Munhoz can bait Edgar into a stand-up war like Ortega was, or like Korean Zombie was, he could knock Frankie Edgar out. I don't think that we're going to see that. We're going down a weight class, and Frankie's been used to 55ers and 45ers hitting him. He's not taking this on short notice. The camp extending more than he expected, that could be a problem. Like you said, he might have overworked himself. But I think Frankie Edgar is going to do what he has been able to do his whole career and stand in there and last for over 3.5 rounds for an easy cash. I think Pedro Munhoz will probably get it done 49-46. I think that's a good call.
Absolutely, man. It's going down. Finally, Frankie Edgar versus Pedro Munhoz, man. 4 times the charm. Hopefully they make the walk on Saturday night. The nice little co-main event with OSP, the veteran, taking on the UFC prospect and Alonzo Menifield, man. Our picks always tracked at betmma.tips. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Man, anything else you want to add?
Let's do our fighters to watch and fight of the night to watch.
So my fight to watch is going to be Daniel Rodriguez and Takashi Sato. That's my fight to watch. I think that's the best fight, man. Like I touched on, both guys never having an opponent with a losing record, all the way through your regional scene and stuff. I think that just breeds a really good fighter, man. I expect big things from both of them in the UFC, and a good fight on Saturday.
Okay, I like that. My fight to watch is Austin Hubbard versus Joe Solecki.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to see Hubbard come out and face the level of competition he should have been fighting in his early UFC career. Really excited to see him get it done, and I think that his cardio is gonna show a whole lot in those latter rounds.
As far as a fighter to watch, it's going to be Alonzo Menifield, man. Rebounding from his first loss, as well as getting an opponent better than the guy that you lost to, in my opinion, as well as somebody that does more for you. I know the UFC is very high on Alonzo Menifield. I'd have to dig some more into his opponents and stuff, but I mean, got some decent wins and stuff. I know the UFC really likes him. I think the UFC wants him to knock out OSP on Saturday.
So my fighter to watch is OSP.
Yeah.
My fighter to watch is OSP. Prove them wrong, OSP. Give me something, man. I think that you have it. I really do think that OSP just fucking has it. He just needs to prove to everybody that he's still there. He is inconsistent as hell, maybe the most inconsistent fighter on the UFC roster, but for whatever reason, I'm going with him this time. I think that he's got it. He just needs to prove that he is still in that upper echelon of fighters.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, it's going down Saturday. Another good night of fights. A couple weeks away. I know we got Israel and Costa and Jan Blachowicz, and Reyes just got added to the co-main event of that one. So a nice pay-per-view in September, man. Hope everybody, able to watch it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and hope you guys cash some bets on Saturday.
Peace.
Peace.